There is a specific look people give you in a parking lot when you climb out of a 10-year-old car. You have seen it. Maybe you have given it. The quick glance at the vehicle. The almost imperceptible recalibration of how they are about to treat you. It lasts about half a second and communicates something very clear. They have decided something about you based on what you drive. And here is the thing. They are right that what you drive says something about you. They are just completely wrong about what it says. Because the person climbing out of that 10-year-old paid-off Honda in the parking lot is not the person who could not do better. In most cases, they are the person who understood something about money that the person pulling up in the brand new $60,000 truck is still figuring out. What driving the same car for 10 years actually says about you is not what most people assume. And today, I am going to show you the math, the psychology, and the specific financial reality that sits underneath a decision that our entire culture has been trained to read as failure when it is almost always the opposite. My name is Sig, and I spend way too much time thinking about money, the signals we send with what we own, and the enormous gap between what looks like financial success from the outside and what actually produces it from the inside. Subscribe to this channel right now if you want to understand money the way the people who actually build it understand it, and give this video a thumbs up if by the end of it you see that 10-year-old car in the parking lot very differently, because the story behind it is one of the most revealing things in personal finance. Let me show you. Let me start with what we have collectively agreed a car means in America, because the agreement runs deeper than most people realize and costs more than almost anyone has calculated. In America, your car is your financial resume. It signals income, status, success, whether you are keeping up, whether you have arrived, whether you matter. This is not an accident. The automotive industry has spent decades and billions of dollars making sure the car you drive carries social weight completely disproportionate to its function. Because a car that is purely functional, something that gets you from point A to point B reliably and cheaply, is worth about $12,000 used. And nobody makes the margins they need on $12,000 used cars. So they sell you something else. They sell you the feeling of success, the appearance of having made it, the signal to everyone in the parking lot that you are doing well. And they have been so successful at this that most Americans now make a $60,000 financial decision based almost entirely on and what other people will think when they see them get out of it. The new truck, the leased SUV, the car that costs more than many people's annual salary. These are not transportation decisions. They are identity purchases, and identity purchases are the most expensive kind because they require constant renewal. Last year's identity purchase is this year's ordinary. So you upgrade again and again, and the industry that sold you the feeling of success profits from every cycle, while the gap between what you appear to have and what you actually have widens a little more each time. Let me introduce you to two people, because the math becomes real only when you see it playing out in someone's actual financial life. James is 32 years old. He bought a new car at 22, financed it for 6 years, paid it off, then did what most people do. He upgraded, traded in for something newer, financed again. He has been in a car payment of one form or another for the entire decade of his 20s. His current vehicle is a $48,000 SUV he financed 3 years ago at 6.9% interest over 72 months. His monthly payment is $812. Derek is also 32. He bought a used Honda Accord at 22 for $14,000. He paid it off in 3 years. He is still driving it. Same car, 10 years. It has 142,000 miles on it. It starts every morning. It gets him where he needs to go. It costs him nothing in monthly payments. Here is what the last 10 years looked like financially for each of them. James spent approximately $96,000 on car payments across two vehicles over 10 years. Insurance on newer finance vehicles ran him approximately $2,400 per year. Total insurance cost over 10 years approximately $24,000. Total spent on car ownership over 10 years beyond his original purchase approximately $120,000. Derek spent zero in monthly payments for 7 of the last 10 years. His insurance on a paid-off older vehicle ran approximately $900 per year. Total insurance cost over 10 years approximately $9,000. He spent about $3,000 total on maintenance and repairs over the decade. Total spent on car ownership over 10 years approximately $12,000. The gap between James and Derek over 10 years is $108,000. Not theoretical money, not investment returns, just the actual dollars that left their accounts because of how they approached one decision. $108,000 that James paid toward a depreciating asset that is now worth approximately $26,000. $108,000 that Derek kept, invested, and watched compound. Here is the part that makes this genuinely life-altering rather than just interesting math. Derek invested the difference? Not all of it. He is human. He spent some of it on things he enjoyed, but he invested the equivalent of what a car payment would have cost him every month. $800 per month invested in a broad market index fund at 8% annual return over 10 years becomes approximately $146,000. Derek is 32 years old and he has $146,000 in investments that James does not have. Not because he earns more, not because he inherited anything, not because he made sophisticated investment decisions, because he drove the same car for 10 years while James drove the appearance of success. At their current trajectories, here is what happens over the next 20 years if Derek continues investing what he would have spent on car payments and James continues upgrading every 5 years. Derek's portfolio at 52 years old, approximately $2,100,000. James's portfolio at 52 years old, approximately $340,000. Same starting salary, same city, same decade. The difference between those two retirement outcomes is almost entirely explained by one decision made at 22 years old about what to drive. And the devastating part is that James drove something that looked more successful the whole time. From the outside, he appeared to be doing better. Inside the actual math, he was losing by a margin that will define the last third of his financial life. Let me show you the number that the dealership is very careful to never show you clearly, because seeing it clearly changes the decision for almost everyone who does the math honestly. A new vehicle loses approximately 20% of its value the moment you drive it off the lot, not over time. In the first mile, a $60,000 truck becomes a $48,000 truck before you have made a single payment. It then loses approximately 10 to 15% of its remaining value every subsequent year for the first 5 years. By year 5, your $60,000 truck is worth approximately $25,000 to $28,000. You have been making payments on it the entire time. If you finance $60,000 at 6% over 72 months, you have paid approximately $69,600 by month 72. You now own an asset worth $26,000 that you paid $69,000 for. That is a $43,000 loss on a single vehicle purchase over 5 years, not including insurance, not including maintenance, not including fuel, just the transaction itself. This is what the monthly payment hides. The payment makes $60,000 feel like $800 a month, manageable, reasonable. What it actually is a guaranteed $43,000 wealth destruction event spread out into installments that feel small enough to accept without thinking too hard about what they add up to. Here is the question that deserves an honest answer. If the math is this clear, why do millions of people keep making this decision every single year? The answer is not stupidity. It is not laziness. It is something much more human and much more deliberately exploited. Status anxiety. Human beings are wired to care about social standing. We are wired to be aware of how we are perceived by our tribe. For most of human history, this mattered enormously. Your standing in the group determined your access to resources, mates, and protection. The instinct is ancient and powerful. The automotive industry founded and built an entire business model on top of it. They do not sell you a truck. They sell you what the truck signals about who you are. They sell you the identity of someone successful, rugged, hardworking, and financially capable, and they reinforce that signal constantly through advertising that never shows someone doing math on what the truck actually costs. It shows someone driving through a mountain pass looking free and powerful. The psychology is working at a level that bypasses rational analysis. You are not thinking about opportunity cost when you are feeling the leather seat and smelling the new car smell and imagining how you will feel driving this home. You are feeling an emotion that has been carefully engineered by people whose entire professional purpose is to make you sign before you think. And here is the specific trick that makes it almost impossible to resist in the moment. They never talk about the total cost. They talk about the monthly payment. $499 a month sounds like a reasonable number. $499 a month for 72 months plus interest equals $44,928 for a vehicle that will be worth $18,000 when you finish paying for it. Same number, completely different decisions depending on which version you see. Here is a reframe that I think is worth sitting with because it changes how the parking lot feels completely. The people who look at your 10-year-old car and make a negative judgment about your financial situation, almost universally people who do not understand how money works. The people who actually understand how wealth is built look at your 10-year-old paid-off reliable vehicle and see something specific. They see someone who understands opportunity cost, someone who is not paying a wealth destruction tax on a depreciating asset every month, someone who has the psychological security not to need an expensive vehicle to signal success to strangers. And they see someone who almost certainly has the money that should have gone to car payments, doing something more productive somewhere else. The personal finance researcher Thomas Stanley spent decades studying actual millionaires in America for his book The Millionaire Next Door. His finding was consistent and somewhat stunning. The most common vehicle driven by actual American millionaires was not a luxury brand. It was a Toyota, specifically the Camry and the Tundra, not because they could not afford something flashier, because they understood that a car is transportation and treating it as anything else is a wealth extraction mechanism disguised as a lifestyle upgrade. The people in the parking lot with the flashiest cars are statistically the least likely to be the wealthiest people in that lot. Wealth in America is almost entirely invisible. The signal we have been trained to read as financial success is in most cases financial performance, a show put on with borrowed money for an audience of strangers who are not keeping score. Here is the most common counterargument I hear, and I want to address it specifically because it deserves an honest response. New cars are more reliable. Older cars break down and cost you money in repairs. You do not want to be stranded on the highway. Fair concern. Here is what the data actually shows. Consumer Reports reliability data consistently shows that a well-maintained Japanese vehicle from a major brand like Honda or Toyota reaches 150,000 miles with significantly fewer major repairs than most American trucks and SUVs regardless of age. A Honda Accord or Toyota Camry purchased used at 4 years old with 60,000 miles for approximately $18,000 has the most expensive depreciation already absorbed by the first owner. It will reliably run to 150 to 200,000 miles with consistent oil changes and basic maintenance costing a few $100s per year, even if it requires a significant repair in year 7 or 8 of ownership. Let us say a $3,000 transmission issue. You have still spent less in total than 1 year of payments on a new vehicle. The reliability argument sounds compelling in the showroom. The math does not support it. The real reliability risk is financial, and the most financially unreliable vehicle you can own is one that requires a $700 monthly payment on an asset that is worth 60% of what you paid for it within 3 years of purchase. Let me be specific about what the 10-year car decision actually produces in financial terms, because I think seeing the concrete outcome changes how the sacrifice feels. Derek at 32 with $146,000 invested is not just doing better than James on paper. He has crossed the second savings level, where his money is genuinely working alongside him. His portfolio is generating approximately $11,600 per year in returns without him doing anything. That $11,600 is almost what a car payment costs annually. His money is now paying for the equivalent of a car payment every year, just by existing in an index fund. This is the compounding machine that the 10-year car decision builds access to. Not just the money saved growing into more money, growing into more than that, until the returns on the original decision are generating more wealth annually than the decision itself costs. Most people never experience this because they restart the wealth destruction cycle every 5 years with a new vehicle purchase. They are perpetually in the early stages of compounding where the returns are small and the payments are large. The person who drives the same car for 10 years gets to experience what compounding actually looks like when it is not constantly being interrupted. Here is something I want to say directly to anyone watching this who has been feeling subtle pressure from family, from coworkers, from their own internal voice about the age of their vehicle. You have permission to drive a car that is paid off. You have permission to prioritize your financial future over a signal to people who are not thinking about you as much as you think they are. The coworker who notices your car and makes a judgment has a car payment that is consuming 15% of their take-home pay. The family member who asks when you are getting something new has an auto loan that they will finish paying off just in time to finance another one. The stranger in the parking lot whose quick glance you felt has their own financial situation that has nothing to do with you and everything to do with the same status anxiety that has been marketed to all of us. Since the first car commercial aired, the financial version of success does not look like the car in the commercial. It looks like Derek at 32 with $146,000 invested and zero car payment and a phone that does not light up with loan servicer notifications. It looks quiet. It looks ordinary. It looks like a 10-year-old Honda in a parking lot that someone climbs out of and goes about their day without thinking about what anyone thinks of what they drive. That is not failure. That is one of the smartest financial decisions a person can make. And the people who understand money know exactly what it means when they see it. So what does driving the same car for 10 years actually say about you? It says you understand that a car is transportation and not an identity. It says you have done the math that most people avoid doing because the result is uncomfortable. It says you value your financial future more than a signal to strangers who are not tracking your net worth. It says you are not paying a monthly wealth destruction tax on an asset that loses value every single day it sits in your driveway. It says you probably have money working for you somewhere that the person judging you in the parking lot cannot see and would be surprised by if they knew. And it says something about your relationship with social pressure that is genuinely rare in a culture that has been marketed an identity worth $60,000 since the first time you saw a truck commercial on television. Tyler drives something new. It looks great. He has 2 years of payments left, and then he will trade it in for something newer. Marcus drives the same car he bought 8 years ago. It has some miles on it. He does not think about it much. He is too busy watching his investment account grow by $8,000 a year while he sleeps. The parking lot has made its judgment. The math has made a different one. Now that you understand what a car actually costs you over time, the next question is where that money should be going instead. In my next video, break down the 3 savings levels where your entire life changes and show you exactly what happens when the money that used to go to car payments starts compounding for you instead. That video is on the screen right now. Watch it next.